we're on the threshold of a new year, completely arbitrary. As to when a new year begins and whose new year it is, and all of that stuff. But still, we think about it at the turn of a new year. We do think about the year that has gone by. It's a good thing to do, some reflection, and it's especially good to do when you are reflecting on God's blessings, the things that He has so graciously done for you. It's a very healthy thing to do, and it's a good thing to focus on God's promised blessings. In the past, this year past, He has kept all kinds of promises of blessings, promises to give us hope and a future, to bless us, good things. Like it says in Jeremiah 29:11, I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope and a future. And looking forward, it is the comfort that you need, that we need to know what it is that God has in store for us, what it is that He intends to do for us, no matter what happens. Because this last year, by everyone's estimation, for all kinds of different reasons, but has been a bad year. It has been a difficult year. It has been a hard year. And to my way of thinking, we have seen the fallen ones. We have seen the lords of hell hard at work. And we have seen within our own country, supposedly at one time the land of the free and the home of the brave, we have seen freedom eroded and just done away with. And it's so comical to me. I was thinking about this. I was talking with Brandon about this last night, actually. This stupid thing of everybody's so thrilled that we're getting another $600 each from the government. My grandfather would have been appalled that America could be here. They've turned us into a completely socialist country in one short year. It's amazing what they've accomplished, and they do not intend to be done. They're just getting ready. They're talking about the Great Reset. Well, their Great Reset isn't anything like what we would think of as great, and it does not have good things in mind for us. Totalitarianism is on the march, and wherever totalitarianism is on the march, Christianity always gets oppressed. So just things to think about. And I'm not, Happy New Year. I'm not saying that to be down. I'm saying it and it'll tie in with what we're going to see in our lesson for this evening. But the hope I have for the future has nothing to do with my financial prospects, with my career prospects, with anything that I would claim as my own in this world. My hope for the future and my confidence in the future is tied to, it is based on the promises of God and who He is and what He does and what He promises and how He always comes through. And it matters not at all what the lords of hell intend to do in this world. It just doesn't matter, because Jesus always wins. Jesus always wins. So that's the attitude, the spirit that I believe we should carry into the new year. Be aware of who it is who's running things in this world and what their intentions are. They are not good. They are not good. Don't trust them. Don't trust them. Don't believe the lies. Deception everywhere. Question everything. Question everything. And rely on your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who is the way, the truth, and the life, who is the only source of those wonderful things. That is where our hope ought to be. Okay, so the Gospel of Matthew. I will make a pitch. There is a thing, and some of you have probably seen it because I'm always way behind the curve. There is a thing that's out. It's called The Chosen. The Chosen, and it's the world's biggest crowd-funded video project, and it is loosely based on the New Testament, the Gospels. And the first season has been out since 2019. Mom and I watched it. It is amazing. It is really good. It is done so well. And they're kind of creative with plausible backstories for the life of Peter and Mary Magdalene and Nicodemus. It's just really, really, really well done. So I strongly recommend it. You have to download an app, but if you just go Google The Chosen, you can download it for free. And what they ask you to do is pay it forward. And so Mom and I did last night. We paid it forward and supported it because it's great work, and it has had bazillions of views and all kinds of people supporting it and translated into all these different languages. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Speaking of Jesus, we're here in Matthew chapter 8. Been a while, but we were at the conclusion of the Sermon on the Mount. And how did that end? What did they say? And when Jesus finished these things, the crowds were astonished. They blew him away at his teaching, for he was teaching them as one who had authority and not as the scribes. One who had authority, not as the scribes. So we just had chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7, all Jesus talking, preaching. And these lessons that he taught there, he taught many times, because he taught for 3 years. If you take everything that's in the Gospels, it would have taken Jesus about 3 months to do it all, time-wise, just not that long. He was teaching all the time, and those were core teachings of his. But he taught as one who had authority. What does that mean? Like he's the source. He is the source. You know, the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. Logos is the Greek word logos. It means like the real thing, the source of everything. That's the way that word was used in the Greek mind, in Greek thinking. So if that one, the logos, the Word who was God and was with God and came from God, all of that, if he's speaking, he's got authority. He's going to speak like he has authority. If you want people to listen to you, and think about why you listen to some people and why you don't listen to other people, that guy knows what he's talking about. How? I can tell he knows what he's talking about. He's passionate about this. This is the real thing. I can tell, right? Tacit knowledge, Michael Polanyi, all that stuff won't go into my dad's doctoral dissertation. After saying that the crowds were blown out of their minds, blown away by him because he had taught as one who had authority and not as the scribes, the next chapter in its entirety is that authority being shown, not in words. Words matter, but in action. So the first thing he does, he did something no one had ever done. There's all kinds of stuff in the Old Testament, in the Pentateuch, about leprosy and healing lepers and what you had to do. It was put there just for this. When he came down from the mountain, because that's where he was teaching, great crowds followed him. Don't let that slip by. Great crowds. This guy was a rock star. They were following him. They were blown away. And behold, so great crowds. There's all these people around. And one of the things none of the Jesus movies are ever able to do, because they're always relatively low budget, great crowds means tens of thousands of people were following him around. And what did it happen? So imagine Jesus, he's walking along and nobody's in front of him, right? So you've got this sprawling, thronging crowd coming along behind him and around him, and they intersect with a leper. And leprosy doesn't really mean much to us. You know, it's still around. It's nothing like it was then as far as the fear of it. You didn't get over leprosy. It ate you away. Literally, a friend of mine in college redid the Beatles song for a talent show. Steve Obita redid the song Yesterday for the Beatles. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. And he did it. Leprosy, all my skin is falling off of me. I'm not half the man I used to be since I came down with leprosy. He wrote 2 verses. It was wonderful. And the professors weren't happy with him, but it was great. That's what leprosy was. It was terrifying. You did not want to be near lepers. They put them off somewhere and no one could go in and they couldn't come out. But a leper walks up to Jesus and knelt before him saying, Lord, if you will, you can make me clean. And Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, I will be clean. In the Chosen thing, where they show this scene or something like it, the disciples, when he went to talk to this leper, to approach this leper, were freaked out. Very accurate representation of what would have happened. You didn't touch them. No, this guy hadn't been touched by a healthy, clean, probably by any human being, because even lepers wouldn't want to touch another leper because they might have a different kind of leprosy and it can get worse. It would literally eat away your fingers and they would disappear. And then everything until it finally killed you, right? And Jesus touched him. Mind-blowing. Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him and said, I will be clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus said to him, see that you say nothing to anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer the gift that Moses commanded. And what does he say? For a proof to them. For a proof of what? For a proof of what? You showed yourself to the priest and they would inspect you, and yeah, you don't have leprosy, and it was over. You were done. You get out of the leper colony, you get to go back to work, you get to go home and see your family. For a proof to them. He was telling the priests who he was. Only God can cleanse leprosy. It never happened. No one ever got over leprosy. They would have things that weren't really leprosy, but it might have been leprosy. And so they'd inspect it and look at it and check it out, come back in a week, kind of like the doctor. Nobody ever, true leprosy, no one ever got over it, ever. So go and do the stuff it says in the Old Testament, in Moses, what he commanded, for a proof to them. Authority to speak to leprosy and say, be clean, and it's gone. That's authority. That's authority. Now the centurion. A centurion was a big shot. A centurion was in charge of, I don't know, when in the military, and somebody could probably help me out, but he's like a major. He's important. The centurions were the backbone. And I don't know that there's a direct corollary that like he's a captain or a major or a lieutenant colonel. I don't know. And I can do the naval ranks too, Derek. I don't want to, the Coast Guard, ensign, JG, commander, all that stuff.
There you go. There you go.
My dad taught me that stuff when I was a kid.
Ensign, lieutenant, junior grade, lieutenant,
lieutenant, junior grade. Yeah, you lieutenant, JG, lieutenant, commander, all that stuff. The centurion was the backbone of the Roman legions. That they were very important men, responsible. So when he had entered Capernaum, a centurion came forward to him, appealing to him. Lord, my servant is lying paralyzed at home, suffering terribly. And he said to him, I will come and heal him. You've got the dynamic here that even goes unspoken, that it is a Roman centurion who comes to him for help. Centurions didn't go to anybody for help, and they daggone well. That's one of the things in The Chosen. They portray very accurately, I believe, how the Romans would have treated all of the Jews. They were conquered peoples. They were subjects. They didn't think much of them, and they didn't like them. They found the Jews to be horribly annoying, especially the religious leaders. This guy came to Jesus for help. And he's pleading with him. And it must have been a servant who was very close to him that he would come and seek him out. And he said to him, I will come and heal him. Jesus was going to go to the centurion, a Gentile, a hostile Gentile. Jesus was going to go to him. Why? You got the whole Jew-Gentile thing. Jesus is the Jewish Messiah. But he came for the nations, right? And there are indications of that, more than indications, clear statements, proclamations of that throughout the Gospels. He's going to go to a centurion's home and heal this guy, but it gets better. But the centurion replied, Lord, I am not worthy to have you come under my roof. This is a centurion saying this to him. He was a nobody. He wasn't a Pharisee. He wasn't a Sadducee. He wasn't a scribe. He didn't fall in the pecking order of religious fiefdom within Israel. I'm not worthy to have you come under my roof, but only say the word and my servant will be healed. For I too am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. Authority. Remember that theme. And I say to one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my servant, do this. And he does it. When Jesus heard this, he marveled. Don't let those things slip by you. Jesus marveled. Wow. And he said to those who followed him, he turned from the centurion and he looked at that thronging crowd of Jews, primarily. Truly, I tell you, with no one in Israel have I found such faith. I tell you, many will come from east and west and recline at table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. Eden, restored. We're all together. Who are the patriarchs? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And many will come from east and west, outside the reclaiming of the nations, those 70 assigned to the B'nai Elohim, right? While the sons of the kingdom will be thrown into outer darkness. You didn't say this kind of stuff. You didn't say it. You talk about today, the whole politically correct thing, right? The things you don't say, whether it's about sexual preference or gender or color or race or whatever else, those social faux pas don't begin to approach saying that the sons of the kingdom will be thrown into outer darkness to a crowd of 10,000 Jews. And in that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. He pulled no punches. And he wasn't doing it for effect. He was just telling the truth. But the truth does have effect, especially when it's coming from the one who's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you, into the outer darkness prepared for Satan and all his angels. And to the centurion, the Gentile, he said, go, let it be done for you as you have believed. And the servant was healed at that very moment. Authority. So we had authority in speech, in proclamation of the word. Now we've got authority in action in a big, big way. And you know, we know these stories so well. This just hit me, and I thought of it before. He did this long distance. He didn't lay his hand on him and say, be clean. He didn't need to see him. He didn't touch him. He didn't make mud and rub it on the guy's eyes. I don't know how far away the guy was. Long distance. Boom. He's healed. Way over there. It's more impressive than if he brought the servant to him. He didn't see him. He didn't ask, what are the coordinates for where he is so I can home in my healing power? He didn't need to, because the earth is his and all there who dwell therein. Psalm 24. And when Jesus entered Peter's house, he saw his mother-in-law lying sick with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she rose and began to serve him. That evening, they brought to him many who were oppressed by demons, and he cast out the spirits with a word and healed all who were sick. This was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet Isaiah. He took our illnesses and bore our diseases. substitute, that concept of substitutionary service by Christ. He takes our burden and he takes it away. That's the concept there. I missed something before that I need to make sure and talk about. Back up to the leper. Jesus said, the first thing he says is, see that you say nothing to anyone. Now, if there's one thing the scriptures make clear, and it doesn't say it here in this case, no one ever kept their mouth shut. He'd say, don't tell anybody. They wouldn't keep their mouth shut. They'd go and tell everybody. Why? Because they couldn't believe what had happened. They were so thrilled. Imagine your child is dying. Imagine, whatever. And he undid it. You were dying. Your flesh was rotting away. And he touched you and you were better. You're going to tell people. But Jesus always said, don't tell anyone. See that you say nothing to anyone. He's emphatic there. Why? Because he didn't want to be Brother Love's traveling salvation show. Little Neil Diamond reference. I hope you appreciate that. He didn't want to be that. He cared and he wanted to help people, but he didn't want to be the sideshow at the circus. He didn't want to be the center ring at the three-ring circus. It's not what he was about. He did it because he cared. He did it because it did show who he was. But, we see in John that this huge crowd starts following him, and he tells them, you're following me because you got free lunch. That you're here for the wrong reasons. And he didn't want that. He didn't want people coming to him just to be healed. He wanted people to come to him to be healed eternally. And there's a difference. And when Jesus, we got Peter's house, he healed all these people. And don't miss, we're in Matthew, the Jew. He's always quoting the Old Testament. He's always pointing things out. This fulfills this. I think we said there 27 times. This is one of them from Isaiah. He took our illnesses and bore our diseases. That's from Isaiah 53 about the suffering servant. Now, when Jesus saw a crowd around him, he gave orders to go over to the other side. And a scribe came up and said to him, that's a scribe, professional Bible expert. The only ones allowed to copy the scriptures. Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus said to him, foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. What's he saying? Are you ready? And this is to you. It's to me. Are you ready to lose it all? You say you want to follow me. You don't know where I'm going to take you. You don't know where I'm going to take you. You say you'll follow me. It's like signing up for the military. I'm young, I'm eager, I'm going to go join the military. You don't know where they're going to take you. The difference here is Jesus only has your goodwill and your best interests at heart. But to say, hey, I'll follow you wherever you go, well, he's going to the cross. James followed him to not the cross, but to death. Peter followed him to the cross upside down. Paul got beheaded. All the disciples died a violent death. Are you really willing to follow him? And as we see the signs of the times indicating that the things that we see in Revelation are coming to fruition, closer and closer to coming to fruition, how ready are you? And if not, if you have questions about that, then dig in. Get closer to him, because he'll see you through, because Jesus always wins. But be willing to go wherever it takes you. Are you willing to lose it all? Who you are, your wealth, your situation, whatever. How much are you willing to give? Because don't know what it's going to take. Another of the disciples said to him, Lord, let me first go and bury my father. And Jesus said to him, follow me and leave the dead to bury their own dead. That always comes across like a harsh statement. And having just buried 2 family members this year, it comes across like a harsh statement. But you know what? Perspective, situation, setting. You know what I've never had happen? You know what I've never had happen? I've never stood 3 feet away from Jesus and had him say, "Follow me. Come." All of history revolved around what went on here. And they got to be a part of it. So when he says, leave the dead to bury their own dead, he's talking about the unbelievers. Come and follow me. You don't turn around and look back. You go. The opportunity to serve, the opportunity to march, to go with the Savior is here. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. It's not harsh. Rather, that the extremity of that statement points to the weight of that moment. Jesus calms the storm. And really stop and think about this. These guys in the boat with him were professional fishermen. It wasn't their first rodeo, right? Is the guy I used to work for, my best friend's dad, who was a professional golfer and professional pool player, used to say with a cigar stuck in his mouth, he'd look at me and he'd say, "Son, this ain't my first tournament." These guys were fishermen. Storms didn't scare them. And when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him, and behold, there arose a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves. But he was asleep. I just love that. And they went and woke him, saying, "Save us, Lord, we are perishing." And he said to them, and I'm not making fun of them, they were terrified with good reason, because they knew enough to know how bad this was. There was no getting out of it. It said the boat was being swamped. Derek was in the Coast Guard. He knows swamped boats sink. And when you sink in a storm, you know what you do? I don't care how well you can swim. You know what you do? You die. And he said to them, in that moment, in that setting, to these guys, "Why are you afraid? Oh, you of little faith." If it weren't so loud from the storm, you could have heard a pin drop when he said that to them. Where's that coming from? It's coming from the one who's about to tell the storm to go away. You're with me. There is no fear here. It doesn't exist with me. Then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. Same word, great, great. Great storm, great calm. The sea, when it's perfectly, is an amazing, tranquil thing. From total chaos. Oh, do we got a chaos pick reference here? I think so. What does the sea represent? Chaos, storms on the sea. It can look really nice, and 15 minutes later, you think you're going to die, right? It went from that to a great calm. In heaven, there's a glassy sea before the throne where the saints cast down their crowns. And the men marveled, saying, "What sort of man is this, that even winds and sea obey him?" All the other stuff he'd done, and they were still impressed. They were still impressed. Okay, we got to stop there. I wanted to get to the guy with 2 men with demons. We'll get to it next time. What I do recommend to you is you look at this account, Matthew 8:28. Also look at Matthew and 8:28 and following. Also look at the parallel to it in Mark 5:1-20 has the same account. Nothing contradictory. It just gives a little bit more information about how fearsome and terrible these guys were. Okay. But authority, right? Authority over wind and waves, authority over disease, long distance, authority over leprosy, casting out demons there at Peter's home. And when it says many came to him, what do you think that many meant? I don't think it was like 12. I don't think it was like 20. I think it was like land office business, people just coming and coming and coming and coming, because who wouldn't? If your brother was at home dying and Jesus was healing people, what would you do? If your mom was home sick, what would you do? You'd go get her and bring her to him. And that's what happened. But it's that authority that only God has that is what is demonstrated here. It's not just in words, it's also in action. He shows him, he speaks like God, and then he shows himself to be God, because only God does stuff like this. Okay, we're going to stop there. That concludes our broadcast for today. We publish our videos on YouTube, BitChute, and Brighteon. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give us a like or a thumbs up. We invite you to subscribe so you can continue to receive our content. Also, please consider sharing this video with others. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment below. This is Matthias 76, and together we will continue to decode the deception.